Staying in your body makes it possible for you to stay with your own experience in real time or close to real time. So you can share your experience in a way that is accurate and disarming and not distorted or destructive. That's a quote from today's guest, Jay Fields. Yes, she is back. And this time we'll be talking about how our nervous system can affect our emotional intelligence and vice versa.
Cut and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
Hey, welcome back to the incredible Jay Fields. So happy to have you here with us.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be back. Yes.
It's such an honor to have you back. The fact that you came back, hopefully that's a good sign.
Are you kidding? Oh my gosh. I loved our conversation last time. It's by far one of my most fun conversations I've had on the podcast. So I'm so happy to be here.
And it's our most successful episode. So we're honored to have
you back.
And hopefully we'll get another huge listening, and what we're going to be talking about today is going to be helpful for our audience. So let me just tell the audience a little bit about you. For those who missed the first episode, go back, check it out. Jay Fields, and we're talking to her again today. Jay is a yoga teacher, somatic educator, and mindfulness expert who has been transforming lives since 2001. Today, Jay walks us through the connections between emotional intelligence and the nervous system, and she's going to guide us through the vital role the nervous system plays in mindfulness, especially in relationships and conversations. And we're going to explore how to apply embodied mindfulness and nervous system regulation to navigate those tough conversations we all face. So stay tuned. So that we can all better understand ourselves and our connection with others. But before we do that, I'm going to say hi to my co-host there, Will, my co-host and my brother from another mother. Good to see you, man.
Good to be back, John. Let me test. Okay, there's my mic a little bit better. I can hear myself. Okay, good. Good to be here, Jay. It's wonderful to have you back. Your first episode, in case anyone's wondering, was called Creating Emotional Stability. And it really shows the need for this conversation to be had once again with you. I think we should have you back every single season, just because you're so incredibly delightful. Yeah, you're so incredibly delightful. The work you're putting out there is so clear and really, you can just kind of really sink your teeth into. We have a lot going on for Men Talking Mindfulness, everybody, and you can simply connect with us by texting 33777 or text MTM to 33777, and you can head to mentalkingmindfulness.com. This fall we have 2 live virtual 9-week meditation courses that are going to be coming up. One will be starting on September 10th, and that's going to be Tuesday nights, 9 straight Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The other one is going to begin on October 6th. Again, 9 straight weeks ending, I think it's early December. But to find out more, head to mentalkingmindfulness.com or text 3377 or text MTM. I'll get this right, John. Text MTM to 33777. And before we begin and to kind of get into our bodies and get into this moment a little bit more and really, find our feet, right, and kind of sink our teeth into what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to just do our 1 breath grounding practice. So create that nice, long, dignified spine so you can open up your lungs, maybe close your eyes so you can feel more of that breath flowing through your body. And we'll just start with a nice little exhale out your mouth. Let it go, really get heavy, really drop into your seat and down into your feet. And let's take a nice big inhale through the nose. Try to drop it deep into your belly and fill all the way slowly to the top of your chest, and just hold that breath for a moment. And exhale, let it go out the mouth. And let it go nice and slow. And we're back, guys. We're back. And hey, thank everybody for tuning in, for being here, for sharing our podcast, for helping us to grow and become more mindful. So Jay, welcome back. Why don't we just jump in, for those of you who have missed our first episode, what's some of your background and what's some of the amazing work that you're putting out there in the world?
Yeah. So originally my background was it had two paths. When I was in college and then right out of college, I was a yoga teacher and I worked in experiential education. So I did like backpacking, rock climbing trips. I did the kind of like adventure trips for executives. I worked with kids and adjudicated youth in the backcountry, all that kind of stuff. So my background kind of merged when I started to look at how it is that everything I did was looking at how it is that our awareness of ourselves from our neck down helps us be better in our work and our relationships and in creating a life that feels like it's true to us. So over the years, I started studying other things like trauma therapy and how our brain works and what's happening in our nervous systems in our day-to-day life. And all of that kind of melded together into different programs that I started teaching in corporations and working one-on-one with women and men in my coaching. And it's led me to be a LinkedIn Learning author and to have, give talks all over the world on basically how to leverage the intelligence of your body so that you have a better experience of yourself in your life.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's move on with that experience, right? One of the big pieces of the experience is knowing the emotions that we're experiencing. Why is knowing our emotions so important? And then from there, what do we mean by emotional intelligence, embodiment, and somatics?
Got it. So why are feeling our emotions so important, or knowing what they are?
Yeah.
Because they're always there. We have feelings, we have emotions about everything that's happening all the time. And to the extent that you don't know what they are running your behavior, they're running your experience, they're running how you see the world. And, they're running it even if you're aware of it or not. But when you're not, they're running it even more. Like, for example, if you think of going into a situation where you're scared and you're pretending to yourself that you're not scared, or you're not even aware, it's just so underneath the radar, you don't even know it's there. Most likely, you're going to show up in a way that you would prefer not to. Like, you're either going to be all puffed up and like in that kind of bravado, grandiose place. Yeah. Like, I'm not scared.
Been there.
Or right. That's probably the Navy SEAL version of things. Or you're gonna right that way. Or you're gonna be like insecurities are gonna show up in your body language or the way your voice comes across. Something about how you come across is going to be off, which leads me to the other thing that's important about being able to feel your emotions. And here's a soundbite for you. If you can't feel you, other people can't feel you.
Wow.
And that's really important when it comes to the people in your life who you love and you want to be close to. If you can't feel your insides, your spouse can't feel you, your kids can't feel you, the people you love can't feel you. It's that, like, the thing that a lot of my clients talk about all the time, where they're just like, I have loving relationships, like I love the people in my life, but I just don't feel like we're that close. It's because if you don't have a sense of what your insides are, how can anybody else be close to you?
Makes sense. Yeah, 100%. And I have felt those times. Ironically, I felt those times, but I didn't feel the emotions. Right? I didn't feel the emotions inside me. In a weird way, I felt the emotions about not feeling emotions, if that makes sense.
100%. Yes, we do a lot of thinking about feeling.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And then coming back to sorry, I asked a lot of questions in that one question.
That's okay.
So what do we mean about emotional intelligence, EQ, embodiment, and somatics? Yeah,
it's funny. I don't have a textbook answer for you about what is emotional intelligence. To me, what emotional intelligence is that you can be trustworthy to yourself and to others. That you have a sense of what's real. Because if you are disconnected from your emotions, you're disconnected from reality, which isn't to say your emotions are rational, but they are your reality in the moment. And if you're disconnected from reality, you're disconnected from other people. So emotional intelligence to me is the capacity to be real and to know what's real. And then through that, to be able to be connected to other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember going through some early training, like back in like 2010, 11, and we would always be part of the training was like literally standing up in front of a group of people, right, and just standing there, not even saying anything. And the group that I was in New York City, we had like 40 people, and they would all just stand up and be like, "My experience of you is blank," and sometimes it'd be like, "My experience of you is disconnected. My experience of you is bullshit. My experience of you is is like whatever." Like, and it would just be like, "Wow," and so much of, especially all the men that were going through this program, they would always get that D word, the disconnected. And and then throughout the experience, and as I went through this, like it was like a 6-week, 10-week program or something like that, we'd always be checking in with ourselves and being asked to check in with ourselves, like, what's your experience of yourself right now? What are you feeling right now? And it really helped me to increase it forced me to increase my emotional intelligence dramatically, because of, you're in a group of other people, and, that's how we're wired, and we're wired emotionally. We can, they've shown, through heart math that like your heart rate when we're in the same space, even probably here, it transcends, virtually as well. Like your heart rate is picking up my heart rate and vice versa. And we can, it's to really be, I love how you explained it in the beginning. It's like, if I can't feel me, then no one else can feel me. And that's I just really appreciated that, because that's really so much of the human experience. And when you're in the presence of somebody that is present, that is being real with what they are, whether they're uncomfortable or not, but at least they're being really authentic, what's going on in the moment. And what about,
right, it's the sort of thing that makes, it's the sort of thing that makes your podcast as popular as it is, right? People can feel you. You both show up in a way that's conscious of what's happening on your insides. When I say something or your guest says something, I can feel you taking in, reflecting on it, and like, oh, I remember a time when I learned this, right? Like there's a connection to that. And so, when I said it earlier that if people can't feel you, or you can't feel yourself, people can't feel you. I'm not just talking about your loved ones and your family. It's a liability in your work as well.
Oh, for sure.
If you're trying to make authentic connections and show up in a way that is really excellent, people need to feel you.
Yeah. Well, let's knock down these last two dominoes, just to we're trying to set a baseline, as far as like, so then we go into embodiment and then somatics, like very similar, but like, just kind of, because these are terms like I was actually, when I was thinking of working on the title of this, if I was going to put somatics and our nervous system, people are like, somatics, and just move on.
Now you know the pain of my life and my
exactly.
marketing, my business. Like, what the hell is this shit? Yeah. So, great. So somatics comes from the Greek word soma, which is body. So somatics is like the whole different fields that work through awareness of the body. Embodied self-awareness is the skill set, I would say. So embodied self-awareness is different than conceptual self-awareness. It is, let me talk about conceptual self-awareness really quickly, because that's what people mostly know. That's you thinking about yourself. That's you thinking about your feelings. That's you analyzing a situation or trying to prognosticate what's going to happen. It's all this spinning hamster wheel. Doesn't make it bad. It just makes it different. Because embodied self-awareness is what can you experience in your present moment self. So it's things like your breath. It's things like feeling your feet on the ground. It's things like your energy level, your mood, places of tension in your body, right? Like when I'm having this conversation, part of the way I know that I'm a little nervous is I'm sweating. Like I'm aware of like, oh yeah, there's a little pit action happening here, right? So like knowing those things in the present. Right. I missed out. I missed that one. It's you experiencing yourself in the present moment. And that includes what are your emotions? What are you feeling? But it also includes all those physical sensations.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think our audience is going to get a lot out of that because even I, and I certainly don't claim to be an expert of any sort, but having those definitions there, kind of clears it up for me. So thanks for that, Jay.
Yeah, and I'll add, I think I might have said this in our first episode, but I'll add that those conceptual self-awareness and embodied self-awareness are neurologically different. They light up different pathways in the brain. And when you have embodied self-awareness, where you know the sensations that are happening in your body, you know your energy level, you know your mood, it literally helps you to have access to things like compassion, to courage, to a greater ability to attune to yourself and others, greater ability for empathy. Like all of those things light up in your brain, the capacity for that, when you can feel yourself versus when you're thinking about yourself. And that's what makes embodiment so important, is because it unlocks the skill set that we think of that an awesome human being has. That skill set you don't get by being smart. Because that's the thing, all my clients are super smart people. They have become successful through how intelligent they are. Right. That doesn't mean they're necessarily connected to the skill set that allows them to be like more relational and human.
Right. So yeah, well, let's we're talking about. Oh, sorry, you got it, John.
Well, no, I mean that answer or that comment there, Jay, leads directly into our next question. You've got these highly intelligent people as far as IQ, and I'm not saying that they are not intelligent at all, but their EQ may not be where they want it to be. What do your students or your clients, whether male or female, struggle with the most when they're trying to level up as far as EQ?
That is a great question because it's such an important thing to know. The thing that people struggle with the most is their conditioning, essentially.
There you go. There you go.
We all have gotten social emotional conditioning around what it means to be a good person and what it means to be in relationship. And most of our conditioning that was handed down to us from the people who love us very, very much is a little bit whack. It's not really true for what it is to be truly relational and to be able to be a good person while also being good to yourself. A lot of our conditioning has to do around you're a good person if you are selfless or, a people pleaser, all that stuff. Yeah. So the thing that gets people, and this is where both of you will understand this because you both train for things in different ways. The people I work with are smart, which means they excel in what they're trained in. And so they have excelled in what they were trained in around their social conditioning for social emotional intelligence. So the thing that they struggle with the most is not going back to those things that they feel really strong in, and instead realizing, like, what's cool is I think once we work on the part of like, here's the way that your social conditioning was kind of whack, to use that phrase again.
It's a very professional term.
I love
very professional
it's super
term.
professional. Yeah. I am a professional person. And here's the way that it's really, this is what's healthy. And the reason why I work at the level of the nervous system with people is because the overcoming the social conditioning requires that you be able to not get triggered when you try to do something new and unfamiliar that you've probably been told your whole life is oh, that's too vulnerable or that's not okay. So yeah, and then with that, I would say the thing they struggle with is they live in their heads. But that's part of the social conditioning. It's like the chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah.
The struggle is around like actually getting to the place where they do have some awareness of what's going in their body, and being able to connect that to like, oh, I know that this is related to this old belief system I have, and it's time to switch the belief system so I can switch the behavior.
Well, I'd imagine one of those first obstacles might be that vulnerability piece, in the sense of, if you're, if you really want to do the work and you really need to work against the programming of the mind, right? You need to let go of the mind. And the mind, when, I know in my mind is like when I try to like, hey, dude, you're not in control right now. Like I got to drop into like really what's going on in my body. My mind's like, what do you mean? I have all the answers. Or like, it just like tries to start, you know what I mean? It starts like bring up like all these like, but we did this in the past, or I can take care of this. Don't worry about that. Like we don't have to feel this thing. Is vulnerability one of those first like obstacles, and then just kind of, moving through, God, just getting in your body. I mean, I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense to this question, but I feel this coming up as far as like, fuck, man, it's like, you gotta really be willing to do the work, and the head is very clear cut. It puts things in boxes and is very, clear in how it dissects and divides, and is continually like, distributing the world along these very, bento boxes. Whereas you get in, you go from head down, right, and it gets really messy. It's like, oh, what's going on with this, or what's going on with that? Like, anything there, like, that's coming up for you? Maybe you can decipher for us.
Yeah, so many different things. Let me see if I can get my bento boxes straight here, because there was a lot of things that came up.
Feel too.
Yeah. When you were asking the question, Will, and you were saying like, yeah, there's the parts in my head that are saying this and this and that, like that. Those are the voices that I call the strategic selves. So those are the voices that are there to protect you from ever having to feel vulnerable. So one of the first things I do when I work with someone is we separate those voices from who they really are. And it's interesting because sometimes people are really, really attached to like, no, that actually is my personality. I'm like, oh, no, honey, it's not. Like those are strategies. Those are protective mechanisms. And they have worked for you to a certain extent because you've gotten this far, or you've had these successes. But the way that they're not working for you is the reason you hired me. They're not working for you because they're the things that keep you from being close to your spouse, or these are the things that keep you from feeling like you're being authentic in your work. And so the thing that we have to separate is like that those are mechanisms for protection. It's not who you are. And most people start to get that when you can take those strategic selves out of the way, which are not very facile, we'll say. They have some just kind of very basic techniques of like, don't do that. That's stupid. That's bullshit, right? Like, don't be weak, right?
Don't be weak.
and they have access to more of themselves. There's a felt sense to that of like, it might be vulnerable, but it isn't weak, and it isn't. It isn't. What's the word I'm looking for? False. Like there's strength in the truth of that, and it's a felt sense.
Well, it's keeping you from that reality you talked about. Like you really, because you're not. If you're only thinking and trying to continually decipher and decide and dissect the world in whatever context is putting you in, with whatever kind of maybe problem or situation or circumstance that is bringing up, it's like. It's got to be that whole, like you mentioned, it's an embodied experience. So we're using, the rise of the emotion that's coming through the body, whatever that circumstance is, but then, then using the mind in order to, to speak to it in a way, or, move through it in a way that, is helpful for yourself and anybody that's involved, or just, it's fascinating. Like when you really drop into the whole experience. I'm just going to keep going, John. So what's like some of our best way of like, so what's like, so we're kind of talking about like, how do we develop this? How do we improve? How do we practice, more of our, besides working with you, Jay, how do we develop more of this?
Only way.
And working with you.
Send me all your money and your firstborn.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So what's it like? So how do we improve and practice our EQ? And, is this something that, we can just take a course over a weekend and all of a sudden we're absolutely EQ brilliant? Or is this something that we need to keep doing over and over and over again and keep coming back to?
Yeah, I suspect your people know the answer to that. It's not a weekend course. Well, sadly, I wish.
I need to hear you say it. That's
yeah, I know. And it does take practice. So the first thing is kind of like in the story you shared, Will, where people were saying, this is how I experience you, and you had to check in with yourself, like, well, how am I experiencing myself? That's one of the first things you can do to start to practice is start to check in with yourself throughout the day. Like, what are the sensations I'm feeling in my body right now? Mm-hmm. And what do those sensations tell me about the emotion I'm feeling? Right. So like you might check in with your body and you feel clenched and tight, or like the kind of butterfly stomach. And you might say, oh, I'm kind of scared about this. I didn't really know that. Or you might check in with your body and realize that you're hot and agitated. And you go, oh, maybe I'm kind of pissed. I didn't see that. So checking in with your body is absolutely one of the best ways to start. But then understanding a little bit about the nervous system helps too, because our nervous systems are the part of us who are constantly and forever scanning our inner and outer world for, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And that happens unconsciously. And when it gets information from the outside world or the inside world that something doesn't feel okay, or it's vulnerable, or a big emotion comes up, it will put you in a stress response, which are typically, we think of fight, flight, freeze, right? And when we're in those kind of stress responses, they have physicality to them. So when you're checking in with yourself, you might find like, I'm super revved up, like I've had 5 cups of coffee, but I haven't. That might be you're in flight mode. You might find that you're the opposite, that you're like apathetic and feel super detached and numb, and it's hard to get to yourself. That's more of that freeze mode. And what's important about this is that if you are in a dysregulated state, so you're in that stress response in your nervous system, you're not going to get an accurate read on like what's really happening. Let me give you an example. So the other day I was working with a client, and it was a female client, and she is in a situation right now with her someone in her family has cancer, and she's taking care of them, and it's really intense, and she's just emotionally like the meniscus is on the water glass. Like you can't put another drop in there or she's going to have
meniscus. I haven't heard that
a meltdown. Like, there you go.
Chemistry.
And her husband was on a group text exchange with some friends of theirs who were also having a crisis. She had just told her husband the day before, man, I am tapped. Like I can't take on anything else. I'm really having a hard time. In the text exchange with the friends, the husband said, let me know if we can do anything for you, which is like completely what you would say to a friend, right? And then he added, like, if you want us to take your dog for the week, because they had to go out of town.
I see where this is going.
Right? So my client had an immediate fight response. Right inside, she was like, "What the actual fuck? Did you really just do that?"
Yeah.
And so her nervous system went into. You can imagine that, right? And what she said to her husband, she said, "I went into the room where he was, and I said, you better hope they don't say yes to that, because you're going to be in a world of pain if they do." Right?
We men.
Yeah.
It could easily go the other way too,
I know.
Right? But because she knew that dog sitting was going to fall onto her. So the reason I'm sharing this is because if she could check in with herself in that moment and pause before she said, "You better hope they don't say yes," she would feel the level of her sensation was a dysregulated level. Like her nervous system is really in fight. And if she can calm that down, she can say something different. Yeah. And this is a huge part of what I help people do. It's not just, can you have the emotional intelligence to know what you're feeling? Can you have the emotional intelligence to regulate yourself? It's also, then what do you say from this place? Because most of us have never heard language that is actually relational. And by actually relational, I mean you're a stand for yourself, but you're kind to the other person. So let me give you the example of what I said. Do you know what you could have said differently if you were regulated? And she's like, hit me. Let's hear it. I said, I imagine what you would have said is, hey, I know why you sent that text because you really want to be a good friend to them. But I just told you yesterday that I'm kind of at my limit. And when I saw that text, I didn't feel seen and I didn't feel respected.
Wow.
Different conversation. Then
I was going to say,
you better
John's
hope they don't say yes.
I'm making notes. I'm making notes.
John's like, I wish more people would speak to me that way. You know?
No. I'm making notes on, hey, maybe I better speak to other people that way.
Very
but
true.
Can you feel the difference?
Oh, 100%.
Huge.
100%.
And it's true. Like the thing that she would have said is completely true. Mm-hmm. It's coming from a real feeling in her, but it's coming from the underlying feeling, not the stress response feeling.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the capacity to check in with yourself and know the difference, honestly, your mouth is going to run off. Like, it happens a lot.
Right. And, I was going to ask, my next question was, how does this emotional intelligence, this EQ jazz, right? How does it improve our relationships? But it sounds like that right there is an example. Could we get some examples of potentially having similar situations at work? Like, how can it improve your work relationships? And then maybe how can it also change your creativity and our worldview? I mean, in this day and age right now, everybody's worldview seems as though they're on one end of the spectrum or the other. But I think having some emotional intelligence may actually help to heal some people's worldview and maybe heal the country. So I'd love to hear your views on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a big part of why I do this work, not just the personal level healing, but the collective level healing. And to that, I'm going to work backwards and say one of the tenets of emotional intelligence is being able to recognize that when you're in a relational situation, there isn't just one reality. This is one of the social conditioning pieces that a lot of us got in a way that we're not even aware of. But that one reality thing is like when you feel like if this person's right, then this person is wrong. If this person is good, then this person is bad. If I say what I really want to do on Saturday afternoon is lay around the house, and you say that what you really want to do is go out to a museum or a baseball game, one of us has to win and the other one has to lose, right? And so one of the tenets of emotional intelligence or relational intelligence, I would say, is recognizing there's more than one reality. And how we speak has to acknowledge that. So coming back to how it shows up in work, for example, I recently had a client whose strategic self at work was the overachiever, the perfectionist. So he had kind of created a certain expectation for him through his behavior, right? Like when you show up at work as an overachiever, you get applauded and you get given more work.
Right? You become the victim of your own success.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he was at this place where he was like, I'm fed up. Like, I just feel like I'm not getting respected. I'm just getting shit thrown at me. And, but I haven't said anything to my boss because it feels like it's not appropriate to say. And because in his mind, the only way to have that conversation is either to not have it and play small or to have it and fight. And that comes completely out of the mentality that there's one reality and one of us has to win.
Right.
If you can come into the conversation as there's two realities, it sounds different. So it's like in the example I just gave with the husband and wife, she said to him first, she said, I can understand why you sent that text. You want to be good friends to our friends.
Right.
Your reality. And my reality is I don't feel seen. So in a work situation with this guy, when what he really wanted to do was kind of go in and vent. And I was like, I get why you want to do that. And it's not going to get you where you want it to go.
Right.
Like, this is probably why you haven't had the conversation, because you don't know any other way to do it. So you've held back on it. So if he can go in and say, hey, I understand that, we've got these goals in the organization, and that it's really important to you that we make them, and that you have seen time and time again where I have shown up in XYZ capacity. So I understand where you're coming from, and I feel honored that you've put this in this way. And what's true for me is I'm noticing that I'm getting bogged down, or I'm noticing that I can't quite fulfill in this way. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's like you go in and you say, this is what I see in you. This is what I experience in me. Where's our common ground here? Right. And that goes back to John, what you're saying about like, how do we heal this country we're in? It's like, hey, I see your reality. I see my reality. Neither one of them are wrong. Mm-hmm. What do we do?
Yeah. And that seems like news media and social media are capitalizing off of the realities being so extremely different, and that there is no middle ground.
Right? There's one. One of them has to win.
Right. Yeah.
And everybody else is disenfranchised and wrong and weird.
Exactly.
Well, I'm hearing like a big difference here, and it comes back to, between the mind and the body. And the mind, again, it's just going to divide. So it has to play that game of who's right. It has to play the game of there's only one reality, and I must win that reality. And use like all of my mental abilities and everything I've gained on the IQ level in order to win that game. Where one thing why that, like what you talked about, that first example of that the husband, wife, and the dog, like it hit so deeply, is because you spoke right to the human being in every single one of us. And that's a different way of communicating. And it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to realize, like, wait, I'm feeling this way. But the other person might be feeling different. And then you can approach what you just said. It's like, hey, I understand why you did that, but I feel disrespected and unseen. It's just like, and then you're just in a brand new place. You're not even necessarily in an argument. You're in a potential collaboration in order to like, oh, hey, like, okay, it didn't want you to feel that way. That was not my intent. I obviously wasn't thinking of you. I was just thinking of my friends. But how could we maybe, move forward in this particular circumstance, to in some way that works for both of us and maybe helps them at the same time. So it's like we're encompassing or taking in many different personalities, many different potential realities, like you said, and it's just and it takes a lot more. It's not so cut and dry. It takes a lot more finesse. It takes a lot more, again, emotional intelligence, a lot more a different vocabulary almost to really honor, that those different worldviews as well as those different realities that exist within us. So yeah, thanks for that. I mean, we keep going back. It's like, hey, you want to live in the mind the whole time, I teach different companies and corporations. I say, yeah, IQ will get you hired, but EQ is what gets you promoted. Because people want to work with people that
keeps you there.
And keeps you there. Right. Exactly. Because through your emotional intelligence, you're going to be grounded in the moment, like you talked about. Right. And therefore people are going to feel you, and therefore people are feeling you. You're probably going to be more inclined to actually share more of your feeling and what's really going on from an authentic place that you can all work through, together, and also honoring those different realities that people are experiencing.
It's funny that you mention it takes a different language, because it absolutely does. It's the language of I matter and you matter, and we both get to matter at the same time, is a language most of us have never learned. But what's interesting is that when I'm with clients one-on-one, oftentimes, so they'll give me the scenario of what's going on, right? They'll, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said this, or and then so they'll tell the story of whatever the challenge is in their life. But then when they're talking to me, they'll say something like, I just felt so frustrated because I didn't feel like we were on the same page at all, and now I don't even know if they're interested in that. And I'll say to them like, why don't you say that to the person? Why don't you say, I'm frustrated because I don't feel like, like exactly the word for word what you said to me, say to that person. And what that shows is that when a person feels safe, when their nervous system is regulated, and they're talking to me, because this is it's not a high stakes situation. They're just telling me what it is. Usually people know how they feel and they can articulate it. But when they put themselves in the situation with the person that the challenge is with, they never just say it straight and clean like they say it to me, because it's so full of strategy, or it's so full of emotion, or it's so full of what's the word I'm looking for? When you say, I didn't do that. Defensiveness.
Right.
Yeah, or my brain couldn't get there. But so what I think is so interesting is that when we're talking to a friend, or when we're talking to a therapist or a coach, we can often say the thing that's just true and uncharged. But then we're like, but how do I say that to the person? Mm-hmm. It's like, just like you said it to me. But that takes being able to be uncharged in your body.
Right. Which is, the big piece of why we're having this conversation is that mindfulness ties into that, right? Mindfulness,
right?
Yeah.
Compassion, self-compassion ties into it, and being able to take that breath, that pause before letting your amygdala hijack kind of run the show. Like, I can absolutely empathize with that situation that you talked about with the dog, and I can be on both sides of that conversation.
100%.
And I can also understand, like, being hijacked and wanting to go in there and let my significant other say, hey, or let them know by saying, hey, that was what in the actual fuck, like you said.
Yes.
That amygdala hijack, how do we become aware of that? And I mean, I know the three of us have some inkling, but for our listeners, how can they put mindfulness into practice so that they can become more aware of these emotions and what's happening in their body, so that they can catch it before these words that could become inflammatory leave their mouth, right?
Yeah, right. Good question. I mean, I think part of it is starting to get curious about what your tells are when you are activated or dysregulated. Like, some people go to the end of the spectrum where, like, they get more into the fight, where it's like they get agitated, they get hot, and they want to, like, strike.
Yeah.
And that's a sensation in your body, whereas some people go to the end of the spectrum where they get, like, mushy. I always think of, I even think I said this on the podcast last time with you. I think of that GIF with Homer Simpson where he, like, disappears into the hedge, like,
classic.
Right? That feeling in your body where you just are like, I'm just going to vaporize. I'm going to disappear. And I see it. Like, I can see it in my husband sometimes when we're talking and I'm upset about something. Like, I can watch where it's like, it just kind of glazes over. So you might feel it in your body as a glaze over. You might feel it as a detachment. And the first way to get ahead of this is to know what your tells are. And if you don't know what they are, the people you live with and work with probably do. And if you have the bravery to ask, the courage to ask, they can probably tell you, like, hey, I notice historically when you get upset or you get triggered, it shows up like this. And then see if you can feel what that feels like in your body.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to know, like, do not let any words come out of my mouth in this place. And that's where the mindfulness, you go and you do a practice, you go and you take a walk around the block, you buy yourself some time before you say the words.
Right. Yeah. Or you type an email that's laced with all these emotions, and then before you hit send, maybe then walk around the block and then come back and reread that email and be like, you know what? I shouldn't send that.
Yeah.
We've all been there. And to ask yourself the question, like, let yourself write the email from the charge and from the emotion, and then look at it and go, what's really true here?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's usually really something quite simple. And this is also why people get tripped up, is because they're used to it being complicated. Like, if I'll ask someone, what did you feel there? And they come up with some answer that sounds like they've been to college in any way, shape, or form, that's not a feeling. That's a thought. Like, if I'm asking you, how did that feel? You're going to sound like a 5-year-old. You're going to say that felt scary. That felt happy. That felt sad. Like, we try to overcomplicate things. So part of what made the example of the wife saying to her husband, I didn't feel seen, is it's really simple. Like this is part of the thing that we get wrong when we have hard talks, is we like just spin and want to say everything about, well, this means that, and this is where that came from, as opposed to just like thinking about, when you meditate and you feel yourself settle into your sit bones. And from that place, like from the ground of being, what's true is I don't feel seen. You don't need to say a whole lot more than that.
Yeah. I mean, and you mentioned meditation, and that's how it's so incredibly powerful, because it is number one, and we just ran, we finished our first pilot meditation program that, I mentioned earlier that are, coming up September and October. And we had, 10 men that went through this program, and just to get to calm was incredibly profound for them. And when they started to get to calm, or as they work to get to calm, they get to see those strategies that you talk about, those mental, hurdles and gymnastics and decathlons that they run a brain through, right, in order to support their existence or support how they are in the world in this particular way. And that they getting to calm, I think that's a lot of that. In order to kind of continually drive that narrative, you're typically driven by some sort of, stress or adrenaline in some ways, because you're always trying to fortify your position. But when you get to calm and you really can get into the reality of what's going on, then we have the opportunity to really embody ourselves, really get to know our emotional experience. We had a few of our students, but one just fully admitted, like this is like by the 8th and 9th week, he goes, I can't believe how emotionally ignorant I am. He goes, I have all these feelings on the inside, but I don't know what they are. I don't know what the name of them are. And it's like, I was like, wow. Yeah. I mean, and that's, meditation is just, but it's something every day you come back to. Every day I sit and I meditate. So, I could just be more clear. I can be more aware of what's going on emotionally, and I can be more clear in how I'm showing up and how I'm speaking, from whatever my experience is, but also, by me attaching to my humanity, right, attaches me to the greater common humanity, so then I could really be aware of other people, what they're feeling, because they have their tells. You can see when they're all nervous. You can see, when they're unsure of themselves. You can see when they're really angry about something, and then you can adjust in the moment to the vibration and the energy and the feelings you're getting back from them. And, maybe you're not going to continually get into more conflict with more and more people. I mean, meditation is so powerful. I don't know. Do you, is this something that you, meditation is something that you do, or something that you offer to your students often as well? Because of, I just know how incredibly profound it has been for me and everyone that I've seen work with it. I'm wondering what your feelings are of that.
Yeah, I do meditate, and that has been a part of my practice for a long time. But it isn't the main thing that I teach my clients to do, because when working at the level of the nervous system and like trying to get regulated, oftentimes meditation can be really difficult for people. As you well know, you guys teach it. But we were talking about trauma in the body and how it lives there. A lot of those the way we think and those strategies are ways to mitigate past hurts that we've experienced, right? And so if you sit down and you close your eyes and you're alone in a room and you're still, it's like, shit, there's feelings that are there. There's going to be, you might still feel the agitation. If you sit down and your nervous system is dysregulated, it can be really hard to get to that quiet place where you're calm. So the thing that I teach people to do first and foremost is to find some of your, what I call felt resources. And these are techniques that use embodied self-awareness to help get you to the place where you could be more mindful, be more quiet. Because in the language of nervous system dysregulation, if you tend to the end of the spectrum where you get upregulated, you get agitated, fight, flight, it's really freaking hard to sit still and meditate from that place. If that's your like, kind of baseline. If on the other hand, you go to the place where you tend to get numb, detached, and apathetic, you could sit for hours in that place.
Yeah.
But are you
Right.
really there? You can sit still and be quiet, but you're not really there. So finding techniques that allow you, they're called felt resources. They allow you to be in your body and give yourself a sensation that is either neutral or positive, so that you can start to trust and anchor in your own internal experience. So for example, they're really simple things, is things like rubbing your fingers together. And you could do this while you're in a meeting at work. You can do this while you're having a conversation with your kids. It's like your hands under the table, no one knows you're doing it. But if you know that you can feel the sensation of your fingertips rubbing together, and you can hear the sound of it, maybe if it's a quiet room, there's an anchor for you. For most people, this is neutral. It doesn't make me have a feeling one way or the other. It might be pleasant though. Like there's something sensually about it that's pleasant. And just having one layer of your experience in your body be something that's neutral or pleasant tells your brain, it's not so bad to be here. Like not everything is fight right now, or not everything is numb right now. And those are the anchors that kind of like give you the possibility of getting calmer. Does that make sense? I can
100%.
articulate that better if you.
No, I think you articulated it beautifully. Like I do where you hold your hand up and you just trace your hand.
Yeah. And take 5.
Yeah, take 5 exactly. And that actually does feel pretty good. And I'm doing it right now. If you're not watching the show, for those listening, I'm doing it right now with my hand. Basically, you just hold one hand up and trace it with the other hand. And my 5-year-old little boy, he does this when I have to kind of guide him to it, but
sure,
it can bring him down. I mean, a 5-year-old little boy, they get amped up pretty quick, or at least mine does. And
yes,
Will's seen it. Oh, by the way, Will, our shorts came on YouTube the other day, and he said, "Hi, Mr. Will."
Oh,
sidebar. But
great kid.
What did you call it? What was the term? Field tools.
Felt
yeah, way off. Field tools. Okay.
You were there.
Felt resources. That's awesome. I mean, I love that. And I've had people say, when I get amped up, there's no way that I can stop to take a breath. There's no way that I can stop and meditate. So now I've got a tool, and it's funny enough, I teach my 5-year-old, but I thought that was too simple to teach to a 4-year-old. But it sounds like that's what we need. We need simple.
That's exactly what we need. We need simple. We need things that get us back to feeling. And so other examples are, they don't necessarily have to be felt in that way. A great tool for a 5-year-old or a 40-year-old is to look around the room and name 3 things that are blue. Mm-hmm. Because it automatically gets you out of tunnel vision, which like physiologically is related to stress response. So you're looking around, which is something that like kind of puts you back into a reality of like, oh, I'm safe here. I mean, talk about like healing PTSD. Mm-hmm. Part of that is giving people tools to recognize that their present moment is actually safe, and then their nervous system can regulate again. So looking around the room for 3 things that are blue or green, or taking something that you love the smell of. Like on my desk, I always keep a little bit of essential oils that I love the smell of, and like just taking a moment and taking a breath of that. Anything that gets you back into sensation that is pleasant. And also things like if you have the time or the ability to do in the situation, go splash water on your face, right? Cold water on your face elicits the mammalian dive reflex. Mm-hmm. And if that's that thing that when any mammal dives into cold water, they go, and that is like a reset button for a nervous system. So there's all these little, almost, I hate the word hacks, but they're kind of like a hack to be like, no, you can just interrupt the BS story that your brain is telling you and touch back into a layer of reality that allows you to feel resourced enough to stay.
Yeah, excellent. What about self-compassion? How does this? I've heard it on some of the talks that you've given about self-compassion, and like, how does this tie into, becoming more emotionally aware and raising your emotional intelligence and, the somatic experience and embodiment? Take us through that a little bit, because it's really powerful, self-compassion.
It is powerful. It was funny. I was going to make a joke and be like, oh, self-compassion, that's dumb.
Yeah, right.
You were like, what about self-compassion? That's stupid. No, self-compassion is huge. And it's one of those things that people feel is, men and women feel like that's flimsy, or that's like, self-compassion. And I was telling someone earlier, I don't know what the study is. Like, I can't say it directly, but there was some study done not years ago where they basically asked people, like, what do you think is better for your performance in the world? Is it better for you to be critical and kind of like have a mean inner voice, or is it better for you to have a compassionate inner voice? And most people said it's better for me to kind of like, give myself the whip,
Flog
and
yourself,
say, flog yourself, suck it up, you got this. But the research showed that the more people were kind and compassionate in their inner voice, the better they performed. So to come back to how I talk about this with people that I work with, some important things to understand are that most of the time when it comes to our feelings, we will tell ourselves they're stupid. We won't acknowledge them in the first place. Maybe we won't even see that they're there. Or if they are there, like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. That's stupid. That's weak. That's wrong. If you can just switch that to the two words, of course, as in, of course I feel this way.
Yeah, I remember that.
Doesn't mean you have to like it. Yeah. And this is the one, I didn't come up with this. This comes from a woman named Sarah Payton, but it is the thing that changes people's lives over and over again, where they're like, man, I took nothing else away, but of course, and that's changed my life. It's if you can say to yourself, of course you feel this way. Doesn't mean you have to like the way that you feel. It doesn't mean it has to be rational. It doesn't mean that it has to even be helpful in any capacity. But just saying, of course, is offering yourself empathy, and that empathy helps to regulate your nervous system again. Like, it helps to calm, it gives your brain a matching picture, as it were. Because if what you're feeling is scared and you're telling yourself don't feel scared, it's like, does not compute to your brain, right? Yeah. And that takes a lot of extra energy and keeps you kind of revved up. So that self-compassion piece, just beginning to make yourself make sense to you. And you make yourself make sense to you by saying, makes sense that you feel that way.
Right.
I love that.
Can you even feel it?
Make yourself make
when
sense.
You, yeah. If you think about saying to yourself, yeah, it makes sense that you feel that way. At least when I say that, I get this sense of like somebody poured some warm honey over me or something. Like all of a sudden it's like, ooh.
Yeah, it's a grounding tool. Yeah, it's a great grounding tool. Well, of course. Well, it's just like now I'm getting, because you're just like, it's like I'm coming back to reality. Like I'm coming back into how I'm feeling right now. Like, oh, of course I feel this way. And
that's the thing I think, sorry to interrupt you, Will, but I think the thing that people think about emotions is I have to get rid of the emotion.
Right.
Or I have to feel a certain bandwidth of okay emotions. And that's not actually true. You can feel really sad or really scared or really mad and feel grounded. That is completely possible. We don't do it very often, but that is what the felt resources are designed to do. They're designed to give you this is true, this is also true. So it's true that I'm super agitated and I'm mad. It's also true that I can feel my feet on the ground, and I know some stuff, and I could do this differently. Right? Like to the extent it's back to that one reality thing. If I only get to be mad, I don't get to be mad and grounded, then you're screwed.
Right.
Yeah. We're holding ourselves to unrealistic expectations. You can have emotions and still be a good human being.
Yeah. And then, you can also end up having emotions, coming back to those thoughts about our thoughts or feelings about our feelings. If we feel angry about something that may be trivial, but hey, we're already here in the red, and now something has happened, and now we're feeling angry about it. then we take a step back. We're like, oh, I'm so stupid for feeling angry. And then you start to feel like a sense of guilt or even a sense of shame. And it's this downward spiral to where you convince yourself that you're a bad person. But if you can take those steps back, that's where you can get to, oh, of course I feel this way. Of course I feel angry because I've had this and this and this and this happening this week. And now I had that happen. So I love that. Now I'm going to mess up how you phrased it again, but basically becoming aware of, what did you say?
Feeling resources.
No.
Oh,
no. Now it's relating to yourself, understanding where you're coming from. I just love the way that you phrase it. I'm going to have to go back and get that soundbite. That's beautiful.
And side note, this is the flip side of that. So doing that to yourself is, of course, you feel this way. Doing it to someone else is, I can understand how you feel that way. And I'm just going to tell your male listeners right now.
Don't say that.
Listen up. Use it. I can understand how you can feel. No, do say it. I can understand how you can feel this way. Yeah. When I met my husband, and like, if I would be upset about something, or I'm a crier. I'm like, I wear my emotions. He was not used to that, and he'd get all upset, and I'd say, you know what, hon? All you need to say to me is, I can understand how you feel that way. And he didn't believe it, and then it works.
Oh man!
And so now he jokes around with me all the time. He's like, I can understand how you feel that way, and like wink. I'm like, you're such a. But we were we ride motorcycles, and we were at this rally, and I was like one of 5 women there, and we were all hanging out with all these dudes at night. And I don't remember how it came up, but my husband said, he was like, look, I'm going to tell you guys a secret. All you need to know is, I can understand how you feel this way. Just say it whenever your wife or your kids are upset, and you're going to win. And they were like, no shit. And he's like, yeah. So that's that thing of like, to yourself, you say, of course, because you're not trying to talk yourself out of the feeling. Mm-hmm. You're not trying to say it's dumb. To someone else, you say, of course you feel that, or sorry, I can understand how you feel that way, is to say like, yeah, that makes sense to me. It doesn't say, I agree with you. It doesn't say, I like it. It doesn't say, I even think you're particularly being rational at this moment. It does say, I can understand how you feel this way. And that, again, whether it's in your own brain making sense to yourself, or having someone else feel like they make sense to you, it is such a down regulator in the best way possible for your nervous system. It brings you back to like, oh, I get to be here.
Yeah, I feel seen.
As me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was thinking you were going to go the other way with it and say, don't say that, because maybe you say, hey, I can understand how you feel that way. And I can imagine someone saying, no, you cannot. But the way that you explained it makes it make sense. So thanks for kind of walking me through that.
Yeah. And I mean, you can elaborate and say like you did when you were elaborating to yourself, you know, of course you're upset. This, and this happened. You could say, I can understand how you feel that way, because I know you get really upset when somebody doesn't listen to you, or like you can elaborate to make it look like you really do understand.
To make it look like you do. Wink.
Very true.
And legitimately, yeah.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, what you got, man? I think I stepped on you earlier.
Well, no, I mean, not at all. I mean, I was getting angry before. I was feeling angry because, like, what you said, the whole fucking situation, John. Because like,
I can understand how you feel that way, my friend.
John. I feel patronized, John. Now I'm even more angry. Okay, like, but like what you said earlier, Jay, like it just pissed me off, because it's like, why is the norm to ignore? And there's no real answer here. Maybe we have an answer. I don't know. To the norm to like not to ignore we're taught to ignore our emotions. Like, I mean, from an early age, it's like, I don't know. It just really.
Well, it's been modeled. Like, think about it. Like, so let's say your 5-year-old John comes in the room and he's upset because somebody said something mean to him at school. Mm-hmm. Not that you would. But if you said, oh, buddy, it's not that big a deal, that's how you start to
condition
that. Like, you get that 100,000 times in your childhood, like, oh, don't worry about that, buddy. Or, you know what?
The sticks and stones. Yeah.
Yep. Any of those things, or like, you see your kids upset and you're like, you know what? Let's just go play ball, or let's go have an ice cream. Like, it's not that it's coming from a bad place. You're trying to soothe the kid. But if you first said, oh, buddy, I can understand that. That's hard when somebody says something mean to you.
Yeah.
I mean, just that, like, I can understand you feel that way. Then you're giving the message to the kid, hey, your feelings make sense. You're not a weirdo, because that's eventually what happens. You get enough people telling you over your life, don't worry about that. That's no big deal. And internally you're going, well, shit, it's a big freaking deal to me. So I must be weird. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of my clients come to me, men or women, where they have this kind of internalized belief that there's something wrong about their feelings, or they're too sensitive, because they're like, man, I've felt things through my life, but I've continually gotten this message, don't feel that way.
Yeah, box it up.
Well, I do. What do you do with that? You just disconnect. So, Will, that, to your point, like, I think we've just been taught to disconnect from them, because we didn't have people, even though the people who cared for us are well-intentioned, their tactics for soothing us were about continuing to disconnect us. Right.
Well, and also to continue to, it's a huge separation between, IQ and EQ. And it's like IQ it seems to be continually rewarded everywhere you go. Everyone's trying to be, say smart things, or, have intelligent conversations. And it just, I don't know. It just seems so, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating, because, I grew up with, a lot of emotions. I was very sensitive. I'm still very sensitive. But now I know how to work with my emotions. I can speak and relate to people and myself in a very mature way now, because I've been dealing with my emotions and working on them for quite a long time. And I don't know. Look at the politics we're in right now. It's just all like pointing fingers, and there's no talk about unity, about coming together, about like how we can all win-win, right? That's another, like in the feeling realm, it's like that's two realities coming together and creating a win-win situation, instead of it's like, you're wrong. Yeah, I need to crush you. I need to beat you, instead of, instead of like, hey, like, how can we all get along together? How can we make this work for everybody? And it's much more complicated to do that sort of thing, instead of just trying, to work with the winner take all mentality, which doesn't even work for the people that win, because then inside they feel the guilt and the shame and all the other stuff that's coming up when you're like unnecessarily and immaturely, like, devastating or crushing or, or destroying someone.
Right.
Like it's
all and that like fight or othering also comes out in our conditioning. So let's say back to the 5-year-old. Your 5-year-old comes home and says, Billy said this mean thing to me. And if you say, John, well, I never liked that Billy kid anyway. His family's kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? This is how that happens. And again, it feels like it's coming from a good place where you're like, yeah, Billy, don't take into account anything Billy says. Billy's a weirdo, and so are his family. Yeah. So then that kid gets the message that if I have an uncomfortable feeling, one way to make it better is to other people, is to make them bad. Yeah. Other people are bad because I feel this way. And that's exactly how we get into the kind of situation we're in our country right now, where it's like, if I don't know how to feel my sensitive feelings, the ones that are really uncomfortable, I feel sad, I feel scared. And one of the ways I've been taught to feel better is to make someone else wrong for it.
Yeah.
We're off to the races. So I think this being able to really feel your feelings and say, of course I feel this way, is a huge potential for healing.
Yeah.
Because then you're not in the position where you need someone else to be wrong for you to be able to have that feeling.
There you go. Oh, that's beautiful. There it is. That's very well said.
Yeah.
So we're getting to close here. John, anything else? And Jay, anything we haven't discussed that you feel?
That's all I was going to say.
I know, right? That or some sort of nugget of wisdom that you can, help our, listeners and our community of mostly men, kind of put a nice little bow around everything that brilliantly that you discussed today.
God, I don't know. Haven't I given enough nuggets? No, I'm kidding. Like, I don't got no more nuggets.
All good,
honestly,
Jay.
though,
There's nothing, yeah.
I think, what would I say? Ultimately, EQ, I think, is about being able to have a good experience of yourself. And I think a huge part of why we're seekers, the people listening to this podcast, they're seekers. They want to learn. People who come to your mindfulness courses, they want to learn. And a huge part of what drives us is because we might be externally successful. We might have a great job and a great family and a great house and all those things, but we still don't have a good experience of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And this is like, we went from talking about what we could do healing on a collective level, but I think it's really, really important. This is the one life you have. I want people to have a good experience of themselves in it. And this work isn't, it's not like something that can happen over a weekend, like we said before, but it is it moves a lot faster than you think it will. Yeah. And it's valuable. It's important.
Yeah.
I think you did have one more last golden nugget.
There we go. So. Dug one out.
Yeah. Well done, Jay. Well done. Well, Jay, this has been awesome. We're going to wrap it up here in just a second with our closing practice. And I'm going to blindside you here. I don't know if you're open to leading that closing practice. If not, that's fine. Well, I can run it. But just wanted to pitch that over to you.
Sure.
So, okay. Well, go for it. What you got?
No. I was just going to say before you go, please tell us where people can find you, and that'd be great. And then I'm but how can people find you, Jay? And work.
Okay, great. People can find me through my website, which is jmoonfields, moon like what's up in the sky, jmoonfields.com. And on there, I'll mention a couple things specifically. I have a quiz, a free diagnostic quiz for what kind of overthinker you are, because I found that. Did you? What do you want to say? What you are?
I'm embarrassed to say that I'm a people pleaser. So,
are you?
I was like, I know. I was like, really? I was like,
I'm a perfectionist, and I was like, damn.
Is it possible to be both?
It's possible to be all. Honestly, there's 5 of them, and I'm all 5 of them.
Oh wow!
I know. I was going through this
because I know them all. But yes, you can be more than one, but there's a dominant one that comes through for most people as your. So the quiz is like just hopefully fun, maybe demoralizing if
Will looks demoralized.
He looks demoralized.
I am like fuck, dude. It's like I don't want to end up there.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks.
Yeah, and I have a program called Yours Truly, and Yours Truly is the big everything I've learned in everything we're talking about here, like the 2 realities and how to have a language that's actually relational. That's there, and there's a mini course as well. So go back. I gave you guys a code, MTM20. Oh,
nice.
So MTM20 is the coupon code to get 20% off the Yours Truly. Wow. And if you want to just start with the little piece, that's the Yours Truly mini course. And I gave you a link for that. And that is the teaching around what we were just talking about, is uncovering what conditioning you got for how you manage your emotions. Excellent. It's like a quick strategic strike. What did you learn so you can unlearn it?
Love it. Right. I was going to also mention and plug you, Jay, even more. Like, she has sold over 500,000 LinkedIn courses, right? Wow. Is that correct? Did I read that? 500,000, which is like an incredible number. Congratulations on that. And she has a bunch. I'm just going to kind of read through them. So you can go through, jmoonfields.com to find these courses. And it says, and I'm sure you can find them on LinkedIn as well. And they have here's one, learning to prioritize and express your needs work. Another one is developing self-confidence. Another is managing your emotions at work. Like, how powerful is that? I think we talked about that last time. I think actually I took that quiz last time. And then the other one is reducing stress and anxiety by managing your nervous system. And those are the 4. that you have.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
plug in, guys, to Jay's works. Like, she's really, you can hear how amazing she is, but I can only imagine going one-on-one and going a little bit deeper. So if you need that help, reach out to Jay. And Jay, how about you take it away and lead us through that closing practice? You're not off the hook. You don't fuck this up, Jay. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. I'm just kidding.
Let me get my nervous system regulated here for a moment. Right. No, so this is actually one of my favorite things to do. So you can close your eyes if you want, or leave them open and just focus on nothing in particular, and bring to mind someone or something or some place that genuinely makes you smile. And you will know you found it because you'll get like a little curl on your lip, like, might be a pet, might be a kid, might be a certain place that you love. And I want you to see if you can feel the sensation of that smile, not just at your face, but in your chest. And maybe even further, maybe it's in your belly, maybe you can feel it out through your arms. So that you get to have this as a felt resource, that this person, place, or thing that you love gives you this sensation in your body. And this is yours. And you get to use this to come back to anytime you need or want to feel more grounded. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Final feel tool.
Feel tool. There you go. You market that. You go to town with that.
We'll collaborate on field marketing.
He's going to market to 5-year-olds is what John's going to do.
That's right. That's about my maturity level. So that's perfect. Jay, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom, sharing your heart with us and our listeners. It's been fantastic. I learned a lot. I'm going to go back and listen to this a bunch of times. Maybe I'll somehow suggest it to my bride as well. I will send it to a friend who will then send it to her.
Oh, yes, get strategic about that.
Except I'll delete this last part.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, this has been fantastic. For our audience, for our listeners, for our community, thanks for joining us here today, both in video and in audio. We couldn't do this show without you. We appreciate you. If you'd like to support us, hey, you can check out our website. As Will mentioned before, you can text MTM to 33777. And I'll turn it over to Will to wrap it up, my friend.
Just big thanks to everyone that's listening. Big thanks to you, Jay, for creating more emotional intelligence in our community and just bringing more emotional intelligence and embodiment and somatic work to the world. I mean, you can just hear from our conversation how incredibly empowering it is and how incredibly powerful it is, to live that life and pursue that life, because it just has an effect on everything, yourself and every place that you go. And we need more of those people in the world. So if you're out there and if you're a little, turned or inspired by what we talked about today, reach out to Jay. Or hey, maybe just check out our meditation course as well. Is a great place to start too. So thanks everyone for listening. Jay, thank you. John, always great to see you. And
pleasure.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Peace, everybody. Thanks for doing.
Thanks
for being.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.